far-left woke activist Rashida Tlaib is officially censured by the U.S. House, and a number of her Democrat colleagues joined in. We're going to see the latest on the censure. We're going to see some of the silliest, most unhinged woke antics imaginable that accompanied it, and why a Democrat civil war threatens to split the party for a generation. You're not going to want to miss this. The ultra-leftist Palestinian Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib was officially censured by the U.S. Congress last night. She's only the 26th congressman to be censured in the history of our republic. The formal rebuke is in response to Tlaib's history of making repeated anti-Semitic remarks, but most particularly her most recent tweet that repeated the lines of a chant that declares, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." Now, the problem there is that the river the chant is referring to is the Jordan River. So from the Mediterranean to the Jordan River, those are the boundaries of Israel. So the chant, particularly as it's used and celebrated by Hamas, is seen by many as a call for the destruction of Israel. So that's what's getting Tlaib in so much hot water. And even with her own party, the vote passed with 234 votes for and 188 against. And astonishingly, the vote for the censure included 22 Democrats. That's perhaps the single most shocking development of them all. 22 Democrats did what Democrats never do, which is cross the aisle and vote with Republicans to punish one of their own. And this despite the fact that Tlaib and her cultural Marxist allies in the Democratic Party did everything they possibly could to try to make this ultimately all about, yes, you guessed it, race.
Of a lack of care and a lack of understanding and a lack of seeing the humanity of folks who look like Rashida Tlaib. It's outrageous that my colleagues are blatantly attempting to silence the only Palestinian American representative right here. It's outrageous, but it's not surprising. And let me tell you, it's not surprising because this place is where 1,700 members of Congress, this elected body, enslaved Black people. It's not surprising because they thought it was right. It's not surprising because this is a place where members continue to claim that the insurrection on the Capitol just appeared to look like a normal tourist visit. It's not surprising because this is the place where our Black and brown staff members repeatedly speak of experiencing racism and sexism, Islamophobia, get pushed off at elevators, xenophobia, and more right here in this workplace. This is the place. And let me say this, she mourns for the 1,400
Israelis that lost their lives.
She mourns for the 10,000, and she will not stop. No more. No more lies. Ceasefire now. And she takes the death threats that you all send that they
The gentlelady is no longer recognized. The gentleman from Maryland.
To her, the desire to save lives is greater.
Gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
That's what I said.
Yeah, so definitely not moving at all to see that rage, right? Just it's great optics to just see some mediocre dude saying the gentlelady's time has expired as she's trying to, raise concerns about her colleague being censured for rightly calling out a genocide. I mean, I think the laziest part and what there's a litany of lazy things going on here, right? Is that the host and a lot of people would just say, her anti-Semitic remarks, right? And I think that you could have the debate over language if you want, which I think, Ben wrote an article about the history of that phrase, right? From the river to the sea, I believe, and how people mean it. But right there in that tweet, she says exactly how she means it, right? Which is that she doesn't mean it in a racist way. And I think that, you could try to make the argument that she is trying to be anti-Semitic, but you'd have to actually fucking engage with what she said, right? But it's just treated as fact that she's being anti-Semitic. You know what I mean? And it's not even giving the argument. So it's really frustrating in that sense. It's just really lazy.
Yeah, it's just trying to just smear you by just calling you names and not even dealing with any of the actual substance of anything.
Yeah, and I agree with Antonio. The term cultural Marxism is way more anti-Semitic than anything Tlaib has ever said. That right there is definitely a right-wing or alt-right dog whistle. So I think that, someone saying it's a questionable phrase. I mean, we'll get to Ben's take, but my point isn't necessarily to say that there can be no argument over that phrase. But I think, I mean, if I haven't made it clear, it's I think it's ridiculous to and horrifying to censor Rashida Tlaib over it. I think if you want to talk about that phrase, that can be a larger. I mean, I think that we get so sometimes we get so hung up on certain phrases, right? Like, whether it's defund the police, whether it's from the river to the sea. And I think a lot of times different people mean different things, by different phrases, right? So there's no one clear answer, in my opinion, to what a phrase means. I think you have to look closely at how the context in which that person is saying it. And also, is there anything else that Rashida has ever said that could actually be conceived as anti-Semitic? And when you look at the history of what she said, everything that they accuse her of being anti-Semitic is it really just about freeing Palestine and against the Israeli government, So there's really no evidence to actually say that she's ever uttered anything actually against the Jewish people. And it's really, disgusting this is pretty obvious, but as a Jew, it's very disgusting for people to erase that difference between criticizing Israel, criticizing the Jewish people, right? A lot of the people who are smeared as anti-Semitic are Jewish ourselves. You know what I mean? So you can debate the ideas if you want and say that, Jewish people like myself who are against the occupation, against the current war, that somehow we got it wrong or we had the wool pulled over our eyes. But to say that we're driven by, anti-Semitism is just, it's very far-fetched, and it's very, dare I say it, McCarthyite, right? This is definitely a new McCarthyism that we see. And who is this schmuck, by the way, Andy?
You know what? I really haven't dug into who this guy is because I've only just found this clip shortly before we went on air. So,
well, he has 159,000 followers. Fucking schmuck.
And you can see right there that he's selling Trump Trump NFTs, I believe.
That is something that's going to go up in value. I would recommend you bet the house. You bet the house.
Yeah. Get a second mortgage on your house. Get those Trump NFTs.
Yeah. Jordan asks, where's Ben? Ben was censured, unfortunately, for saying from the river to the sea. He was expelled. We censored him and we expelled him from the show. No, he was actually censured by Los Angeles traffic. He allotted ample time, I'm told, to get here. So it's not his fault. It is some kind of traffic disaster. He will be here imminently, and he will give his take on all these things. Because I know you're here. You like Jake. You like Andy, but you're here for arguments from Ben. That's really what you're here for. Then it's right in the title. So you're gonna get Ben has an expanded take on From the River to the Sea. I personally get a little irritated by these. I just think it's also, it behooves these people to make the argument about language, right? And because it's just, it just depends on how you interpret it, right? It distracts from the fact that thousands of children are dying, and the reason that Rashida Tlaib, first of all, yes, Rashida Tlaib has a vested interest in the area being Palestinian herself, right?
Yeah, her grandparents literally live there.
Yeah,
she has family there. There's, I believe, aunts and uncles as well, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. To censure the one person who has probably I think Justin Amish, or I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, he's no longer in Congress, right? So I think he's a former congressman, but he talked about how some of his family died when they bombed a church in Palestine. But I think other than him, she's probably the only person with family over there with those type of ties. Someone could correct me if I'm wrong, but to censure her for speaking out against it is obviously extra disgusting.
Maybe my favorite thing so far about this video is the oh, wouldn't you guess it, gonna make it all about race. And it's like, look, in other contexts, I actually do think that sort of mainstream American left liberalism that I think often actually is excessively focused sometimes on racial dimensions of things that that thinking about sort of universal economic demands, thinking about class, often analytically gets better to the heart of things analytically, and is also a better basis for organizing. But if there's one thing that, maybe it's okay to make all about race, it's genocide.
That's a good point. My one question: do you think that if it had been a white member of Congress who said the same things, do you think she would have been censured?
Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe. It's hard to say. I think that it definitely. I mean, I wouldn't put it past. Like, there are people like, look. I mean, Norm Finkelstein had his academic career destroyed, right?
You're
That's
right.
there are definitely people who've been come down on hard for similar reasons, right? Who are not Palestinian, or are Jewish, or just regular ass white bread Americans, or what have you.
We hate those. We hate those.
Yeah. To be clear, we hate those.
We censure them. Yeah.
So like clearly just not being an Arab American is not enough to get you to escape from having the hammer brought down on you for speaking out on this issue in certain circumstances. That said, look, does the fact that she's Palestinian make it a lot easier to demonize her and paint it in this light? It's for sure.
Well, yeah, because what is it? Marsha Blackburn fucking said that she has ties to Hamas, right? They wouldn't have said that about a white person. Come on, or not?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's definitely that, right? There's no way that even Senator Blackburn would have said that without the background of ooh, I don't know, she's like some kind of scary Arab person, right? In the background, right? And again, just circling back to the main point, I don't know, I'm just trying to imagine taking this same approach out in other contexts. It's man, goddamn woke SJWs keep saying that the reason those 6 million people were exterminated to 1933 and 1945 was that they were Jewish. It's these people just have to make every single, they started talking about slavery and
I mean the civil rights movement, right? That's the most race blind. That's just about equal rights for everyone, right? But then they made it. They had to make it about race, right? Whenever they bring up Martin Luther King, it's always about race, right?
It's I don't know, slavery, genocide, Jim Crow. I mean, if there are a few things that we can maybe, in some sense, make all about race, that really those really are the items at the top of the list. So I thought that was just kind of particularly funny that they framed it that way. But yes, by all means, let's keep watching.
Yeah, and real quick though, there was that picture, I think, of every person in Congress that supports a ceasefire, and I think there wasn't one white person in that picture, which is it's just more of a real embarrassing showing, right, for Jay Andrews' people.
I'm embarrassed.
No. Look, you're one of the good ones. You're a credit to your race.
Yeah. Ben and I, as Jews or half Jews or whatever you are, Ben, it's nebulous. We can, we're not part of that group. Anyway, let's keep going.
Clearly a sharp, bright line, separated us from
people. Don't think of me as that for sure. Right.
Yeah.
We'll reserve. The gentleman from Maryland reserves. The gentleman from Georgia is recognized.
Now, obviously, that was one of the most unhinged rants imaginable, but it's actually indicative of a very real civil war that's erupting from within the Democrat Party. As it turns out, the Israeli-Hamas conflict is, in fact, tearing the Democrat Party apart. But first, how you can really stick it to the woke left? It's just by clicking on the link below and getting your very own set of these collectible limited supply Trump cards. Patriots played their anti-globalist Trump card against the left in 2016, and we're getting ready to play it again in 2024. So what better way to show your support for Trump's re-election than with these 5 collectible
I don't even want you to skip it.
Cards.
This is beautiful.
These cards have a limited supply, so don't wait. Only 2,500 sets of these cards are set to be made, and they all come with a certificate of authenticity verifying you own an original set. These make great gifts for any MAGA patriot in your life. And if you buy 2 sets, you also get a bonus gold Trump 2024 card absolutely free. These physical cards,
This video is
high
9
quality,
minutes.
made in
How
America,
much real
and
estate
highly
is
collectible.
going to
Again,
that?
there's only a limited supply, so don't wait. By the time you remember, they'll likely be gone. So click on that link below right now and get your Trump cards today. Almost immediately after Tlaib
Oh boy, is there anything we can even say about that? Or
I mean, that is just like, if you wanted to summarize all of right-wing media in 1 minute, that would be it.
I was like, is he really gonna go for a sales pitch when he says, "You want to know how you could really stick it to the woke left?" It's like, if it weren't for Andy, I wouldn't even fucking know about this shit. How is it sticking it to me? Oh my god, yeah. Wow.
And I'm getting flashbacks to like the 90s. Remember the trading card bubble that we had in the early 90s?
Being born.
Yeah, what do you trade the Trump ones for?
Yeah.
Oh wait, were they called trading cards?
For the ones you don't have.
I guess
Okay.
you trade.
Well, okay, maybe they're not. I mean, they just said Trump cards, so maybe they're not intended as trading cards. But then I'm even more confused about how it sticks it to the woke left. I mean, how do they know? How does the woke left know that you own one of these cards?
That's what I'm saying. If it wasn't for Andy, I would never have heard about Trump. I mean, I'm glad and I don't feel stuck at 2. I feel immense happiness learning that this is how he wants to spend a minute of his. First of all, his video has like, it's like, maybe 50% just playing clips, right? And then like a little bit of like weak analysis. He's like, obviously that's unhinged for reasons we don't have to go into. But if you really want to know, all right, let's wrap it up.
Was censured. The far left rose up in defiance of their own party. MSNBC host Mehdi Hassan took to Twitter, or X, and wrote, quote, 10,000 plus Palestinians killed, including 4,000 plus kids. And the U.S. House of Representatives is busy.
Let's see how he refutes
the only
this.
Palestinian American member. Can't make this stuff up. Mark Lamont Hill, who himself was fired from his affiliation with CNN because of his own incendiary comments, wrote, quote, Rashida Tlaib sold out by 22 congressional Democrats, naming names. But of course, this pro-Palestinian outrage is only further shocking so many pro-Israeli proponents who up until now have aligned themselves.
Okay, I'm sorry, we do have to pause here.
We're seeing more and more articles.
Can we just back up like 10 seconds to show the article they were just showing again?
Democrats naming names.
Yeah, after that. Yep, there we go. So just to review, because I didn't want to let this fly by. So this article, American Jews on the left are just shocked by their fellow leftists. It's always good to see when you're doing a sort of anthropological, foray into some group of people who your native informant is. So who are these people turning to as a source of information about what American Jews on the left think? Dennis Prager. How many American Jews on the left does Dennis hang out with?
I mean, at first I thought they were calling him a Jew on the left, which is no, literally I had to, until we went back, I realized he is their reporter embedded in the diner, right? Who's telling it, exactly. That is their source 100%.
I mean, look, Dennis Prager might have, leftist family members, but like at this point in his life, are they really still talking to him about politics?
Are they even still talking to him?
I mean, even that is honestly a real question, but yes, like if they are talking to him, like tell me they're not like, they don't see political subjects coming up minutes away and like steer wildly in the other direction.
I feel like this guy's getting tore up at Thanksgiving if he allows any one between the age of like 18 and 40 to show up. I mean, let alone on Israel. I mean, on all the other shit that he believes.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, if he's going to Thanksgiving dinners where there are like young left-wing members of the extended Prager clan there, yeah, I think I just don't imagine him having the kind of relationship with them where they're like, oh, Uncle Dennis, I'm starting to be, I think I might be starting to like be disenchanted with my left-wing friends. Is that weird? What do you think? Yes. Thank you for the super chat. Jumperman says being censured by this Congress is like Jerry Sandusky telling you he doesn't want your nephew to try. Okay.
I mean, it's a super chat, so you got to put it on the screen. But no, it's good.
Give us the rules.
Yeah,
those are the rules. Yeah, don't
abuse that. Don't abuse that. There are limits. I have final say ultimately, but let's see what nuggets of wisdom we have coming out of here.
Did you unmute it?
With a political laugh. We're seeing more and more articles coming out on just how stunned American Jews are for the amount of rabid hatred against Israel that's coming out not from the political right, but from their own political left. While Republican voters are overwhelmingly pro-Israel, but 80% of Republican voters fully support Israel's campaign against Hamas, the situation is very different when you poll Democrats. Astonishingly, Democrat voters are siding with the Palestinians by an 11-point margin, 49-38. Now, what's happening here is a very real break. So
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Jews and those with pro-Israeli sentiments.
Gotta pause on this because when he says Republican voters are fully on board with with Israel's what he refers to as Israel's campaign against Hamas. We'll get into that, but that's like, look, if you ask people like this not very well defined question about, it's like, hey, how do you feel about Israel, Hamas, these different words? I think you get a lot of results that aren't going to be very informative. If you ask people a really specific question with real world applicability, which is, do you think the United States should call for a ceasefire in Israel-Palestine? 56% of Republican voters say yes. 80% of Democrats, but 56% of Republicans say yes. So like,
wow.
Honestly, forget the way that he's talking about American Jews as if the Jewish hive mind, all agrees with everything that he's saying here. We'll definitely get into that. But like, honestly, this guy has managed to be unfair even to Republicans.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point about how their ultimate allegiance might be with Israel over Palestine. Sure. if they had to pick, but that doesn't really say much about what they think about what
they think should happen now. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, because it's not a really really, it's just saying, hey, Israel, yay, boo, what do you think? Right? Like, it's just not a useful way to poll people. Like, what do you think about a specific concrete thing that would happen in the real world is way more helpful.
Yeah, exactly. All right, should we
Yep.
let him go?
Who have thus far voted Democrat, openly coming out and saying that there is no way they're voting for Democrats anymore. They simply cannot morally justify voting in the same way as those far leftists who are publicly advocating on behalf of what many believe.
Well, not that we should do things based off of this, but the vast majority of Jews are really in states where this really matters. I mean, okay, maybe Pennsylvania, if there was a huge shift.
We are talking about a population that's concentrated in yes, you're correct. Also, as a separate issue, most American Jews vote Democratic. I mean, that's just a fact. Like, experts say there could be a significant change in voting. It's like, all right, well, I'd like to see the experts' evidence. But yeah. And also, like, the whole premise here is just wrong. Like, if you look at the polling data, honestly, to a pretty remarkable extent, given that, um, many Jewish institutions, do push Israel very hard. We're, in fact, in a couple weeks, we're going to have the director of that movie Israelism come on the show and talk about that. Right, that's what the movie is about. People kind of overcoming that early indoctrination and speaking out on behalf of the Palestinians. But despite that, right, like pretty consistently over the years, if you look at the polling data, like there's not a lot of daylight between American Jews and other kinds of Americans on their views on this, right? It's like that sort of like, by and large, sure, do most American Jews say vaguely pro-Israel things, but also say they'd like a two-state solution and also et cetera. When people ask these poll questions, sure, but so do most of the Andes.
Yeah, I think Andy contains multitudes. I think also, part of the effect that you're seeing is that the outliers within the Jewish population on both sides are extremely vocal and passionate, right? And
of course.
But that's why it seems so, but I mean, like when you see like people who are being censured for so-called like BDS or anti-Semitism, whether they're college professors or whatever, Jews are very overrepresented in that group. You know what I mean? They might actually be, my guess would be that there's a plurality of Jews if you look at any list of, I don't even want to name these fucking organizations, but these ones that try to like out like, anti-Semitic or anti-Zionist professors, you know what I mean? If you actually look, and I have looked at these lists, there's a lot of Goldstein type names in that list of supposedly anti-Semitic, professors, you know what I mean?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the range of who is super vocal on this issue on both, I'm not saying that there's as many far left Jews as there are far like super Zionists. I'm not saying that, but you're going to find just because it's a personal issue to us.
Yeah, but they're both one minority is bigger than the other, but they're definitely still both minorities. And it's also just clearly unambiguously true, as I guess this is your point about the Goldstein thing, like that American Jewish leftists are wildly overrepresented among leftists who talk about this the most, and people who
like the show,
people who speak my fraction adds up to to Jake's whole, goes into the it goes into the the stat, but it is right, it's wildly overrepresented in that, of course, because as you say, it's personal to people in a different way, and they're likely to have in one way or another had to deal with the issue and had to and had to think about it in ways that might not arise for others. So it's like that makes perfect sense, but like it's also what makes the way that they're presenting it here as if it's like, oh, American Jews all feel this way. American Jews on the left are disappointed that other people on the left aren't pro-Israel, and it's like, come on. I mean, it's getting harder and harder to, I would assume, to say this shit with a straight face. I mean, like all the time we had pro ceasefire American Jews like doing like a sit-in at the Capitol in Washington D.C. Was super high profile. We had American Jewish peace activists like shutting down like Grand Central Station, right? Like that's this is like granted, I know I see more of this stuff than most people would because I seek it out and the algorithm has learned to feed it to me, but like 20 times a day I'll see it's like, oh, this is here's that rabbi who like heckled Biden about why he won't support a ceasefire, ceasefire, like here's this or that or the other, individual or group of American Jews speaking out against this. I mean, this is extremely common, right? Like, and they can't, it doesn't mean that it's the majority sentiment, doesn't even mean it's as large a minority as people who are super Zionist, but it's still super common, and it's still very disproportionate among people who are speaking out, for the Palestinians. And it's silly to pretend not to know that.
Yeah, and I think last thing before we start it again, I mean, I think next, if you're ever arguing with someone who's super pro-Israel or Zionist, I think the number one tactic to watch out for and try to steer the conversation in a more productive way is deflection, right? I feel like the Israeli propaganda is so steeped in these deflecting tactics, right? And one of them is, why don't you talk about Israel so much? Why don't you talk about, I don't know, like Egypt or China or Saudi Arabia, right? But I mean, I've had, arguments with other, with Jewish people in my life, and they're like, why do you talk about this so much as opposed to other countries? And it's go ahead.
Just to preview it a little bit, there is a pretty direct discussion about this in the Anna interview.
Okay.
We're going to play shortly, but it's like, the short answer is, in a lot of these other cases, in a lot of these other cases, my country isn't funding and arming this.
Yeah,
rabbinic heckler is a redundant phrase. My country isn't arming and funding this. And look, maybe in some cases it is for some of the items on the list. Great. Organize a protest about it. I'll go to it.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it's just, I mean, when these people say it to me, it's like, you're recycling the propaganda that you were supposed to use to someone else to me, man. It makes no sense. I know a little bit more about this area of the world. You want to know, like, for obvious reasons, you know what I'm saying? It just, to me, it just shows, I mean, I understand that they want to, paint these people as anti-Semitic, but I just mean, it shows an obvious, like, plug and play of fucking propaganda where you're saying shit that does not make any sense to me, of like, why are you so obsessed about Israel? I don't know, because maybe like many of my childhood friends are like basically posting genocide apology on my social media. Maybe that, just makes it a little bit more personal to me. And, like a lot of the Jews leading on these issues, it's like Jewish voice for peace, if not now, right? Jews that are against. So I think you could have an intelligent conversation about the ways that this divides the Jewish community, right? I think it's an interesting topic worthy of actually intelligent discussion, but obviously this is not it. All right, let's see.
Let's watch the last minute or so.
A blatantly murderous and genocidal ideology, namely that of Hamas. So Jewish leaders are openly saying they've never seen this in their lifetime. They've never seen so many Jews expressing how done they are with the Democrat Party. At the Democrat Party is now the de facto party of pro-Palestinian activism. They are out.
If you're listening on a podcast, we're not laughing at what he just said.
Facing a boycott, as it were, from the pro-Israeli side of the party.
If you're listening on the podcast, there was another banner ad for the Trump mugshot T-shirt. Just kind of undermine this point. We didn't find that statement randomly hilarious.
But it gets worse. As we talked about on a number of other videos, Muslim and Arab Americans who were instrumental in Biden's support back in 2020, they're now coming out and openly telling Biden that there's no way they're going to back him in 2024 because of his blanket support for Israel in the Hamas conflict. NBC News just published a report on Biden's support among Muslim Americans absolutely cratering, particularly in the swing state of Michigan. It has one of the highest Muslim populations in the nation. According to a study conducted by Biden's own pollster, while 70% of Muslims voted for Biden in 2020, that support has now plummeted to just 16%. 16%.
That's a real issue.
Democrat politicians like Biden may soon find themselves on the wrong side of not one, but two boycotts by voter demographics that were absolutely crucial in swing states like Michigan. So all of this is to say that we continue to see a very real fallout from the Israeli-Hamas war, a fallout that risks permanently splitting the Democrat Party for a generation. Are you ready to join the resistance? Because I'm leading a group of dedicated, courageous patriots who can lead a spearhead into the heart of the secular globalist establishment. We punished Bud Light and Target, driven CNN and the legacy media to near bankruptcy, forced BlackRock to backtrack on ESG, and now we're seeing our conservative-dominated Supreme Court ending affirmative action and protecting religious liberty. In my Insiders Club, I show you concrete steps to take locally
What was that
and
cut?
online
Who's
that will
that
only
guy?
keep this mass uprising going until the battle is won. Don't wait. Click the link in my description below and join my Courageous Patriots Insiders Club today.
Let me real quick.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, look, I understand, right? We do the same thing. We have like a standard bumper that plays after every clip, right? It's not like we make up new ones every time, right? Like there's just you've been watching, free public content from Give Them an Argument. Like, honestly, it's time to record a new one anyway for us. But in any case, that in this particular case, if you want to make a video accusing your political enemies of anti-Semitism, I think I might switch up your standard bumper that talks about how you like your hatred of the secular globalists.
Yeah,
Right after doing a rail of coke too. I mean, did you see his eyes bug out?
he was much more excited talking about joining his little club than he was the vision of the Democratic Party. PhD in I'm going to be doing a little research into
Nice. You could, in the post game, you could fill us in about Turley.
But we have some other stuff to get to.
Dr. Steve Turley.
Sorry.
You have been watching free public content from Give Them an Argument. To access every single episode of the show, the main show on Monday nights, all of the streams, all of the debate breakdowns, all of the patron-exclusive post games on Monday nights, all of the patron-exclusive bonus episodes every week, and much, much more, go to patreon.com/Ben Burgis. I cannot resist ending this with, don't be foolish.